1985, David Roth leaves Van Halen. At that time, Van Halen's the biggest band in American hard rock, global act. The 1984 album eventually achieves diamond status, 10 million copies sold. As does Van Halen 1 eventually, so they're one of the few bands to have 2 albums that have achieved diamond status in America. I think their global album sales are just under 100 million. And I think 60-70% of those album sales for the David Roth era. So things have gone amazingly well with the 1984 album. Just prior to that, they played the US Festival for a massive fee. But ruptions are occurring. David Roth's sort of planning a solo career and a movie career. Relations aren't good with him and Eddie Van Halen. So he leaves. It's a total shock. I remember reading it around, just like, I just got into Van Halen, and literally a few months later, David Roth left. So basically what they do is they team up with Sammy Hagar. I think initially they want to call it a different name, but record company politics dictates that it's called Van Halen. And straight off the bat, they come out with this, the 5150 album, got this the day it came out. So basically, yeah, look, I don't like the Sammy Hagar era as much as the David Roth era. Sammy Hagar's a much better singer. Sammy Hagar's still a great singer. He's probably like tuned down the half step, and that's it. Like Paul Rodgers and singers like that, he's just kept himself in shape, and he's got golden tonsils. The difference is David Roth's just got a certain style, a certain way of being in a song, and that's the classic Van Halen sound. So what Van Halen become with this is a really polished American hard rock act with more AOR influence. If you look at the I'll Wait track, that's got a bit of AOR influence, but due to J.D. Roth's singing style, it just stops it being that, I think. On this album, on tracks like Dreams, Why Can't This Be Love, they've definitely got that more adult-oriented rock radio sound. It's very successful, it goes to number 1. They're bringing a different producer on this, Mick Jones, a foreigner. I like the way this album sounds. It's got a punchy drum sound, the guitar sounds great. Eddie Van Halen, I think he started double tracking on the 1984 album, but he certainly double tracks on this. Instead of just having a single track of guitar. Don Landy's still engineering, so it opens up with Good Enough. I remember Kerrang criticising this because they felt like Sammy Hagar tried to rip off David Roth. But yeah, it's got talking bits in the middle section, but I don't know why they didn't play this track live. It's a great track. I love it. It's my favourite track on the album. And Eddie Van Halen starts off with just this crazy tapped harmonic thing for years. Well, for a while I couldn't work out how he did it, and then I saw a live without a net video, which we'll maybe come to, and it's a cool thing when he bends a string and taps the harmonic, and it just creates this amazing sound. So I love Good Enough, great track. Why Can't This Be Love is next. I tried getting into that track. There's periods where I'm like, look, it's a really good track, why don't you like it? I just don't like it. I don't know. It's just too synthy for me, and not poppy enough on the synth. I don't know. Get Up, I'm not that keen on. It's like it's going for like the big bombastic drums. Never really been able to get into that track. Quite interested on that. He uses a trans trem on the Steinberger. So the Steinberger trans trem is basically a tremolo system that dropped. You could pull the pitch up or down, but every string remained in the same pitch. Normally on the tremolo system, it sends the strings out of tune, really, different relative pitch. Next track, Dreams, I really like. That's an AOR track, pop AOR rock song. Really good, lovely vocal by Sammy, nice lyrics and two fantastic solos by Eddie's, particularly the end one, does a lovely tapping. Then side 1 finished with one of the strongest tracks, Summer Nights, again, brilliant intro. It's a really good party metal, party hard rock track. Great lyrics by Sammy, it's a feel-good song. Definitely captured the summer vibe. I think it came out in the summer, this album. I seem to remember listening to it on bright days like today. Side 2 with Best of Both Worlds, another cracking track, really good live. Then the big power ballad, Love Walks In. Again, total AOR power ballad, more like Journey or something, but really good, brilliant guitar solos, probably Eddie's finest soloing on this. The type of soloing he's doing on this, the maturity in his playing, this was the kind of thing that was different from the David Roth era. I would say this is the last album where Eddie Van Halen surprises. After that you kind of heard the licks and stuff, and there was things with the neck pickup and wah wah and sort of a more mature elder statesman type to his playing, but this was the last thing where you're kind of like, I haven't heard him do that before. Then there's a title track, which is a really good track, love that, and the album finishes on a stinker inside, which I don't like. So this has always had 6 really top tracks on it. The other 3 I don't like. So it's about a 7 out of 10. For many, this is the best Van Hagar album, and I would probably agree with that. It's maybe not as consistent as some of the other ones for me, but it's got like really strong tracks. The video they did for this tour, the Live Without a Net, was great for me as a teenager. A friend of mine got it, and we would watch it endlessly at his. And he just captured the band in all his pomp in a big arena. Eddie Van Halen, you could see everything he was doing, and he was totally on fire. His solo spot, all his playing was totally brilliant. Sammy was great, the whole band were really good. And they did a great version of I Can't Drive 55 and There's Only One Way to Rock. They used to open the show with the Sammy Hagar track, There's Only One Way to Rock. And I'd never heard that before, and it sounded absolutely brilliant. So, you know, they hit the ground running with this #1 album. I think it sold 7 million copies, but not as much as the Daily Roth ones over time. They've never remastered these albums, in actual fact, that I'm going through. They should be, but obviously because Daily Roth came back, they've kind of steered away from that. Next album, I kind of maybe preferred this at the time a bit, OU812, because it's kind of more consistent, but it's kind of my least favourite Van Hagar album now. Don't like the production as much. There's some issues there. It doesn't have a bad track on it. I think it just lacks a really standout cut for me. Obviously on the 5150, you know, you've got your Good Enough, your Summer Nights, Best of Both Worlds. You know, you've got cuts that are really, really top. This, you know, you get Air For You, Naturally Wild. These tracks aren't in the right order on the vinyl. He started off with Mine All Mine, and then it was When It's Love. What was the next one? I can't remember. I think Cabo Wabo finished side 1. That's a track I really like. It's about Sammy Hagar's gaff down in Mexico. Great party track. Black and Blue was good. Finish What You Started. Some great fingerstyle picking from Eddie on that. Source of Infection. I think that was, no, AFU, that was track 3 on side 1. Source of Infection was on side 2, and was Sucker in a Free Piece. This has got another track on it, Apolitical Blues. I'm not fussed with that, but on the original vinyl it was only 9 tracks. So it's, I kind of say it's a 6, 6.5 out of 10. It's a good, strong record. It just needs 2 or 3 kind of really killer cuts and a better production. But I like it. Strange cover, you know, again, sort of quite kind of mature, you know, the new sort of look, I suppose. You know, actually, if you compare it to Women and Children, first were they goofing around. But, you know, they're in the 30s now, and Sammy Hagar's in his 40s. So, yeah, 5157 out of 10, that one's 6, 6.5. The next album goes into 1991, so Strange Times for traditional hard rock and metal bands for unlawful carnal knowledge. But they're coming in early 91, so they're not going to feel the full effects. In actual fact, Van Halen were always so big that they never really kind of got affected by the grunge thing as much. This is a better sounding record. It's produced by Andy Johns and Ted Templeman. So Andy Johns is a great engineer from the Zeppelin days. So he gets a great drum sound, the guitar sounds good. Obviously Ted Templeman's got great ears. Opens up with 2 killer tracks, Pound Cake, Judgment Day. Yeah, kind of what OU2 is lacking. 2 really great tracks. Then Spanked, can't be bothered with that. Run Around, yeah, it's quite catchy. And Pleasure Dome, which is a strange sort of arty track I used to really like it, but I don't now. That was side 1, so it starts strong but it tails off, but it's the back half album, side 2 is better. You had In and Out, which is a really good good feel-good track, great chorus. Man on a Mission, same thing again, Sammy Hagar writing some really good hooks. And then The Dream Is Over, which actually I like, it's a kind of little political lyric from Sammy. He used to do stuff for Farm Aid, and I think it's about that, just about the American dream dying. It's a theme that returns in America all the time, but those 3 tracks are really good. They're kind of similar, they kind of form a kind of, you know, they're of a similar ilk to me. Then you got Right Now, which had a great video for it, which did well for them, and that's a really good track, lovely solo by Eddie. You know, it's a good AOR track, that. Then you got 316, which was the little instrumental he introduced in the Live About a Net video, the little finger picking thing where he sat down, uses the classic All Right Now guitar chord shape. That's great. And then you got Top of the World, which is a top pop rock track. I really like it. Yeah, in actual fact, side 2 of this album's really good. Better than side 1. So You know, again, you got 11 tracks, 3 off 8. You know, it's a 7 out of 10. It's not quite punching up, but it's a better record than Oh You Wait 2. You know, you could argue it's better than 5150. I don't know, it's a tough one. Those 5150 songs are really cool, and Eddie plays up a storm on 5150. Not doesn't play great on this. This album is the one where I think, I could be wrong, I think he's starting to use the Music Man guitar. Maybe he did start using that on Oh You Wait 2. But he's using neck pickup a bit on here for a thicker tone. So now you come like kind of the unusual album is slightly forgotten about, and I'll get my confession. At the time, one of my housemate friends bought this album, and we kind of listened to it. And at the time, by that time, I was probably not going away from modern albums that bands were releasing, but the albums weren't as good. There was the whole Seattle thing happening. It wasn't a great time to be into music for me, so I was listening to more older stuff, you know, from the 70s and early 80s. So, although I liked some tracks of this album, I wasn't really fussed, and I made what now I really regret is a terrible mistake. They played at Gateshead Stadium in Gateshead in the Newcastle area, for people who might watch this who aren't from around these parts. I had tickets to see them with Bon Jovi there, and then I heard that Eddie Van Halen had a hip replacement, and tickets were 25 quid a skint at the time, so I sold my ticket outside and didn't go and see them, with a view that I would get to see them sometime, and I never have. I've never seen Eddie Van Halen, never seen them with David Roth. I meant maybe to travel to America to see them when they reformed with David Roth. Didn't do that. I hope they'd come over here on the last album, they didn't. So anyway, but this album opens with Seventh Seal. This is produced by Bruce Fairbairn. The mastering's pretty loud on this. It's pretty punchy, that loudness war thing starting in the mid-90s. But Seventh Seal's a kick-ass track, really good, cool riff, good lyrics by Sammy, you know, really good groove. So it opens really well, and then you got Can't Stop Loving You, which is a sort of pop track. At the time I didn't like it, but it's good. It's a good pop hard rock track. Then you got Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, which is good. That's got a really cool, dark riff with a nice bit of chorus on it. Yeah, so that's a really good track. Then there's a track I didn't used to like, because I thought it was a bit daft. I like it, it's Amsterdam. It's kind of like a drugs track. But it's got cool riffing, and I think it's quite funny. The lyrics are stupid. Wham, damn, wham, bam, rolling Amsterdam. But anyway, I actually like it. It's a sort of track at that time, people probably, you know, while people did party rock tracks with where music's going, but now you listen to it, now you forget all that kind of 90s nihilism and negativity, and you just think, yeah, like Eddie Van Halen and Sammy Hagar's having a good time. The last track, I think, on side one, it was Big Fat Money. No, we never had this on vinyl. Sorry, but Big Fat Money, don't like this track. Quite an interesting solo by Eddie, but it didn't do it for me. There's a quite cool sound of a coin kind of rattling at the end, I like. Then it's got a daft instrumental that they recorded ages ago, just messing around the piano strings strung out, which seems a bit pointless to me. But then it picks up again, it's just Not Enough, which is a good ballad. Again, a sort of AOR, more Journey style ballad with great vocal by Sammy. Aftershock, which is a kind of hidden gem on the album, a really good rocker. Good kind of Sammy lyric, you know. So Sammy Hagar is a good lyricist. He's not as good as David Roth. David Roth's kind of underrated lyricist, very witty, but he's good. Then there's a track Doing Time, which is just a kind of Alex Van Halen drum thing, which I'm not fussed about. Then Eddie Van Halen does his one and only guitar instrumental that's kind of in the style of guitar instrumentals of the late 80s and early 90s. He has a drum groove down, he does a kind of Satriani Vai style instrumental. It's really good. It's called Balachurum, I can't pronounce it, but it's good. He pulls it off. It sounds like Eddie EVH, and I really like it. And then Take Me Back, second last track, that's really good. Great rhythm guitar, like the guitar's really punchy on that. I mean, him and Bruce Fairbairn harnessed a really good sound on this album. And then it finishes with Feeling, which is a ballad but with heavy elements, and it's got a dark side to it. And that's really good. I think with this album, it feels like, apart from those little instrumentals, if you got rid of those, it would just feel like an album. It's got some darker elements to it, and I overlooked it at the time, and I think, well, certainly better than Oh You Wait 2. I think it's maybe more consistent than 5150 if you're on off canon knowledge. I don't know, you know, it would be hard to pick between that and the other two albums I mentioned. You know, it did well for them. It still sold 2 million copies. You know, they're still doing really good business. But after that, sorry, I'm moving my nose. After that, Sammy Hagar left. There was the David Roth debacle of coming back when he didn't. The Greatest Hits. Just quickly, the Greatest Hits album from this time features a Sammy Hagar track called Humans Being. Again, it's great. Actually, it's probably as good or better than anything on this album. Really good track. Fantastic riffing by Eddie on that. It's a really good tune. I think they did a song for the Twister. That was on the Twister soundtrack as well. And Eddie did an instrumental called Respect the Wind. If you remember the film Twister. Yeah, so that's, you know, Van Hagar album is, to me, Van Hagar era, it's about polished commercial American hard rock with some AOR elements, with experts singing, top melodies, fantastic drums, bass, and obviously outstanding guitar playing. It's a bit more mature and playing for the song more. What it lacks to me is it's got great tunes, it wasn't a definitive album. They should remaster these really and just give them the care and attention. After this, the fallout with Sammy Hagar, they get Gary Cherone in for Van Halen 3. I don't hold Gary Cherone responsible for the problems with Van Halen 3. The songs aren't there. It's one of those albums that's unlistenable to me. It's like, there's very few albums by favourite bands that are unlistenable, and I can't listen to it. I've tried about 3 times. I think there's one track, Fire in the Hole, people rave about, but it's alright. It sounds like a cast off Van Hagar track. So yeah, it was a disaster. Then they got back for a tour with Sammy Hagar and did a best of both worlds, and Eddie Van Halen was knee deep in his tail end of his alcoholism. So there's some nasty bad performances, live stuff you can find online for that, which is sad. But they did 3 tracks for the Best of Both Worlds CD, which was the Roth and Hagar era. But they weren't great. There's Up for Breakfast, Learn to See, and I can't remember what the other track was called. They were all right. Then they got out David Roth, and then they did Different Kind of Truth. So that's the Van Hagar era. So I think, just summing up, it's difficult to kind of... There is that debate, people go, oh, I prefer the Sammy era, and what typically happens with that is they've got into Van Halen in the Sammy Hagar era. It's not like they're into the David Roth era, and then Sammy Hagar comes along and go, this is better. It's like, if you're into David Roth, you're into David Roth. When Sammy Hagar comes along, you like it, but you'll never like it as much. If you've never bothered with Van Halen and you hear Van Hagar and you're like, oh, I like the sound of that, you're into that, and then when you go back to David Roth, you think, why do people like this? Because of the sort of singing thing, you know, that he's not as strong a vocalist. So that's a principal difference there. You know, the David Roth era built American hard rock in the 80s, basically. The Van Hagar era, you know, was part of that at the end of the 80s, but it wasn't the influence, you know, wasn't influential, you know, the way the David Roth era or the Montrose album that Sammy Hagar made in 1974 was and still is to this day. So there we go. Cheers.